Whatever you do, never spend the $1 bills that you see in this video because they're worth a whole lot more money than just $1. Now, without wasting any more time, let's just hop right into this video. So up first, we have a $1 bill that sold for $3,840, and here's why. So this $1 bill is from the series of 1988, and this note is from the Chicago district. You can tell by that letter G on the left side of the note. Now, something really important here is that G should always match the first letter of the serial number. You can see that the serial number starts with the letter G. Another thing to keep in mind is the district number. Now, the district number is located in 4 areas around the bill. You can see on this bill, it is the number 7. Now, it's not a coincidence that G is the 7th letter in the alphabet. Listen closely. If that letter on the left-hand side of the bill was an A, then the district numbers around the bill should be a 1. If it was a B, they should be 2s. If it was a C, they should be 3s. If you ever find a bill where the district letter does not match the district number, you have something that's potentially worth a lot of money. There are 12 districts, starting at A, standing for Boston, and ending at L, which is San Francisco. One more thing I want to point out on this specific note is the plate position on the front of the bill. Now, you're going to see that plate position in 2 areas, one on the left-hand side of the bill, which is that small little C, and then on the right-hand side of the bill, you're going to see the letter C as well. Now, on the right-hand side of the bill, there's a letter C, but prior to that letter C, there's a small FW. Now, that FW is important because that tells you where the bill is produced. Now, there are only 2 places in the United States that paper money is produced. That's going to be the Fort Worth, Texas facility or the Washington, D.C. facility where they print paper money. So if you have a small FW, that means it was produced at Fort Worth. If you have nothing there, that means it was produced at the Washington, D.C. facility. Now, that's important because depending on where the bill is produced will dictate how many bills were produced for that specific series and denomination. What you need to know on this note is that it was graded by PMG at a 66 EPQ, which means exceptional paper quality. Now, 70 is the highest achievable grade that you can get. When it comes to paper money, the higher the grade in the uncirculated grade is mainly influenced only by the centering of the bill, which means the margins that you see there around the bill. As soon as the bill has a single fold on it that goes into the design, the bill will drop into the circulated condition, which would be 58 and lower. The reason why that's important is because condition is critical when it comes to the value of a bill like this. Now, the main reason why this bill sold for $3,840 is because it's a mismatched serial number error. Now, if you saw that earlier, good on you, but it's a small detail that most people won't even notice. Look at the top right serial number and the bottom left serial number. The first 2 digits are different. The bottom left is 11, the top right is 00. If you see this, you have a rare bill. Hold on to it, do not spend it, but let's hop into the next note. So this $1 bill is from the same series of 1988, but it's a completely different reason why it sold for $7,200. The back of the bill looks completely normal here, but it's only when you flip it over that you can see the second print is doubled. So not many people know this, but when they're producing paper money, the back of the bill is actually the first print. Then when you flip it over to the front, every area that you see here that is doubled is the second print, and then the third and final print is the overprint, which is the district seal on the left, the treasury seal on the right, and the serial numbers. So anything that's not doubled on the front is the third print. If you're seeing double on your $1 bill, you could have this one worth a lot of money, just like this one that sold for $7,200. I'll spend 5 seconds on this, but this is a genuine $1 bill from the United States of America. This is a Confederate bill from 1862. Now, not many people know that after the Confederate War, this paper money was literally useless. People would actually use it as wallpaper in their homes. It's not until over 150 years later that a bill like this is worth $288. I know a ton about Confederate paper money, but not many people think it's cool, so I won't spend that much time on it, but let's go on to the next paper money bill. So I'll be very brief here, but this 1977 $1 bill sold for $11,162.50, and if you haven't noticed already, the main reason is because 1, the grade is very high, and 2, this is a serial number 1 bill. So that means this is literally the first note from the series block of HB that was produced. So I'll explain this very briefly, but by HB, I mean the prefix letter and the suffix letter of this serial number. So when they're producing a brand new run of bills, what they'll do is they'll start with the prefix of A and the suffix of A, starting at serial number 1 all the way up until a solid number 9 serial number. Now, once there's no more room, it'll go from a solid number 9 and they'll go back to a serial number 1, but instead of being an A at the prefix and a A at the suffix, it'll be an A and a B. I hope that makes sense. But essentially, when there's no more room, they will change the letter and go to the next run. The main thing that's important here is that this is a serial number 1. If you have one, it's going to be really rare. Also, if you have a serial number 2 through 9, those are typically very rare as well. But to be honest, any sort of quote unquote cool or fancy serial number is going to bring more money in the market. So keep them safe and do not fold them whatsoever because it will decrease the value. But this one sold for $11,162.50. I'll spend just a few seconds here, but this is a genuine, real $1 bill from 1928. Yes, I know it does have a red seal and serial number. Most people think when they see this that it is fake, but that is the furthest thing from the truth. This is a genuine legal tender note. That means technically you could bring this to a grocery store or a bank and hand it to the clerk and they would legally have to accept it, but that would be silly because they would only give you $1 worth of value, when in reality it's worth $2,760. This $1 bill sold for $4,200 and it's probably one of my favorite types of notes to be on the hunt for because the majority of people out there have no idea what to look for when it comes to these specific notes. Now, this is what collectors call a web note. So there's a short run where the Bureau of Engraving and Printing wanted to produce a different type of bill. They wanted to try a different printing method in order to keep up with the high demand for paper money at the time. So what they did was they took a page out of the book of newspaper producers. What they did was they used the same machines newspaper producers used to print paper money. Now that is not the way that we do it today, because when they tried this process, what happened was a ton of errors and mistakes. They ended up destroying a ton of paper money because the way it was working was just jamming the printers and making a ton of errors. That's why you see on this note, it's a star note. Now, for those of you that don't know, a star note occurs during the printing process when a sheet of bills needs to be destroyed because there's an error on the sheet. So what happens is a quality control manager will mark off the sheet, typically with a red marker. That sheet will get destroyed and they'll need to produce a new sheet of bills with a star at the end. They do this for bookkeeping purposes and to make sure that there's no theft going on at the BEP. So what do you need to look for on this note? Well, there are 3 different locations you need to keep your eyes peeled for. Now remember, if you have any single one of these areas, then you have all 3. You cannot just have one of them. So the first place you're going to look at is Washington's portrait. It's going to be washed out. I'll throw a diagram up right here. The next area you're going to want to look at is the front plate number. Now the front plate number will typically have a letter and a number, but these specific bills only have numbers. Now, one of the easiest areas to look at is going to be on the reverse or the back of the bill. Now, typically the plate position on the back of a normal $1 bill is in a completely different location as a web note. As you can see here, it's to the right of In God We Trust. So if you find a web note, it's going to be worth a whole lot more money than just $1 because this one sold for $4,200. Now, I'll be very brief here, but $24,000 for this bill. Now, you'll notice this is at a 40 PPQ. That means the bill has a lot of folds on it, which tells me that these are still out there in circulation and people can find them. Now, if you haven't noticed already, this is also a web note. So everything I just talked about in the previous note applies to this note. But why did it sell for so much more money, especially if the condition is a lot lower than the previous note? Well, if you have not noticed already, this is a web note that is also an error. So the suffix letter is mismatched. So the last digit in the serial number is a star at the bottom left serial number and it's an L at the top right serial number. If you ever have a bill like this, make sure you hold on to it because $24,000 for this one little dollar bill. I'll be very brief here, but this is also another genuine 100% real $1 bill from 1928. Now, the cool thing about this bill is that back in the day, you could take this bill to your local bank and exchange it for equal value in silver. They also have gold certificates, but more on that in a different video. What you need to know here is that this bill sold for $99,875, and it's because it's a 1928 $1 bill, silver certificate, star note. Now remember, before 1928, the only bills they produced were large size bills. This size you're looking at here is the size that we're all used to seeing, but before this, they were much bigger. Moral of the story here on this bill is that if you find a 1928D $1 bill just like this one, you're in for a real treat because $99,875 for this bill. Now, if you're looking to buy or sell your coins or paper money, my coin and currency master mastermind class community is now live. Click the link below for more information, and I'll see you inside.